According to the American Psychological Association, 50% of marriages end in divorce. This is a common statistic that has been circulating around in the media. But why is divorce becoming so common? According to InspiredMarriage.com, the top 3 reasons marriages fail are routine, lack of commitment, and lack of communication. One thing these have in common is that they can all be solved through enhanced communication. In fact, PsychCentral.com goes as far as to say communication is the glue that holds marriages together. Let's take a closer look at why these factors are so vital when it comes to a healthy marriage. Think about your life. As you picture it, it probably involves some sort of routine. As humans, we are wired to have a routine that makes us more productive. Now imagine having to put your routine together with someone else's. Does it mesh perfectly? Probably not. This is something couples often don't think about before marrying. An example of this is given by InspiredMarriage.com. A man has a habit of going out with his friends every Friday and Saturday night. When he gets married, his wife lets him continue this habit, so it also becomes part of his married routine. As their marriage goes on, after a few months, she becomes lonely of being at home by herself on the weekends, and after a few years, she begins to need help with the kids on the weekends. But it's too late. The husband is already years into his routine, and it is much harder to fix. This could have been solved if she would have communicated from the beginning. The definition of routine, according to Merriam-Webster, is a sequence of actions regularly followed. Something like a routine that is regular and frequent in life has to satisfy both partners in a marriage, because it becomes one routine instead of two. If one is unsatisfied with the routine, it will lead to dissatisfaction not only in the marriage, but also in their lives. This can also lead to other factors that cause marriages to fail, such as commitment. 2ofus.org states that commitment is the part of the relationship that provides safety and security, so couples can express their thoughts, feelings, and desires openly. If communication fades, so does the safety and security. Once a spouse feels like that fades, it's likely they will look for it somewhere else. A big reason for lack of commitment is people not wanting to give up certain relationships or going certain places that makes their spouse uncomfortable. This stems from the selfishness we all have. Whatever the reasoning, if a person starts looking elsewhere, the communication they once brought to a marriage will start to trickle to whatever is filling the void until the marriage is cut off and becomes lifeless. This leaves us with the biggest reason marriages fail: lack of communication. This is mostly due to the fact that people do not know how to communicate well, especially in an intimate relationship. An example of this, according to PsychCentral.com, is that people are often more passive than active when it comes to communicating. Oftentimes, spouses will try to leave hints, and more often than not, the other will not pick up on what they are trying to lay down. Another example of this is listening. Most people don't know that communication is mostly listening. When couples are in a heated discussion, they're often thinking about what their retaliation is going to be and what they're going to say next, instead of listening and then responding based on what their spouse says. According to everydaylife.globalpost.com, couples also fail to see communication as a process. Within a marriage, couples will eventually figure out their own communication style, but they don't realize that it will definitely take time. They must know it is okay to not have all of the answers at the beginning, and to have fun figuring it out together throughout the duration of the marriage. These 3 factors of failing marriages have one thing in common: they can be solved with communication. As already stated, different expectations of routine can lead to an unhappy marriage and in turn an unhappy life. It may seem tedious, but communication about every single part of one's day until they figure out their own routine will help immensely. Like anything else, this is a process, and it will take time for 2 people to mentally and emotionally become one. Over-communicating will help the routines run more smoothly. Commitment is where the security and safety of a relationship stems from. If one is not feeling these 2 things in marriage, it is vital to let the other spouse know immediately. This can be hard considering one already feels unwanted, and putting their feelings out in the open can cause them to be even more vulnerable. But if they do not do this, the emotional wall will continue to build up between each other. It is also not a bad idea for one spouse to ask the other what they can do to help them feel wanted. The last one is kind of a given. Of course, lack of communication can be solved with better communication, but I think we would be surprised with how hard of a concept that can be for some people. Bottom line is, couples must be direct with one another. People do not become psychic when they become married, no matter how much we may think that at times. And being direct will help clear up a lot of small disagreements. Couples also need to listen. According to Mediate.com, if couples would listen to one another, then formulate a response, communication would flow much more smoothly. According to SkillsYouNeed.com, communication, more than anything, is going to take patience. It is not something that has a beginning and an end, but it is a continuous process. They must work past all frustrations in order to improve. It has been affirmed by PsychCentral.com and many research studies that communication is the glue that holds marriages together. In fact, according to Fox News, it is the #1 reason marriages fail. Despite routine and lack of commitment also ranking high, these are all factors that can be solved through proper communication.